Mrs. Robinson, will you take the roll, please?
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford?
Here.
Ms. Clark?
Here.
Mr. Dillard?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Thank you. If everyone will join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Happy to see everyone this evening. Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started, board members. A review of the minutes from our last couple meetings. I'll need a motion and a second for the meeting minutes of our November 19th regular meeting and December 5th working session meeting. May I have a motion and a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark and Mr. Mills. Board members, any changes, corrections, questions on any of those? Wonderful, thank you. Mrs. Robinson?
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Dillard?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes, thank you. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Crew for communication and reports.
We have no communications at this time, but we do have a report from Brooklyn Barger on our middle school STEM program. So I'll turn it over to you.
I'm going to start us off, if that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then-
Yeah.
Go.
I'm good. Well, I told, I want to, Brooke has an excellent presentation prepared for you, but I just kind of want to praise her a little bit for her involvement with the program, because I know she's not going to say anything, and she definitely deserves it. But before I get to that, I also want to just take this moment real quick to thank the board for their continued support and encouragement for us to take 8th graders to Washington, D.C. We were able to do that the week before Thanksgiving break. We took 85 8th graders, 9 chaperones, 85 fantastic kids. We had a great experience. I'm sure Mr. Dixon might talk about it during his report, so I won't take too much from him. But we got a lot of compliments for their attentiveness and participation, and it was just a great trip. And it always is. And Ms. Leggett puts in so many hours to make sure it runs so smoothly. So anyway, I just want to thank the board on behalf of me and the staff at Tecumseh Middle School for continuing to allow us to take that out-of-state trip for 8th graders experience. But getting into this, with the help of Brian Dixon, Dr. Oakes, and Todd Behorn, we were able to bring BOAG in STEM to the middle school during the 2019-2020 school year. This has expanded the program from the high school. So at the middle school, the program is a semester class. This allows every 8th grader to take the program. So every 8th grader gets to experience BOAG for 18 weeks, experiencing a wide range of different components of what that has to offer. And because it's such a wide range, it is sure to spark some type of interest in every single student, whatever they're interested in, whether it's cooking or farms or farm animals, plants, whatever. They're able to get every student's able to get something out of it. But specifically, Ms. Barger came on during the 22-23 school year, and since then has really expanded the program and continues to find innovative and creative ways to bring different experiences for students. I don't want to take anything away from her, because I know she'll talk about it, but she really has put in a lot of time, a lot of thought, and commitment and time to bring these experiences to students. So whether that is farm-based or FFA conventions, or students joining an FFA club at the middle school, constantly involved in looking for different ways to get students involved. Additionally, one of the important things of having BOAG at the middle school is it can get students interested in continuing on at the high school, which they can use as a pathway for graduation, So students have the opportunity to earn a 12-point credential, which you are, with that addition of finding alternative means to graduation is important to some of these kids. So we're happy to kind of be that first look to various points of this program to get students' interest. But some of my favorite things about this program is, one, during the food lab week, the hallways, they smell pretty amazing. The students do a great job. So that's awesome. I love seeing the pride and creativity in the students during their woodworking unit, which I know they're working on now. When they leave for the holiday break, they come out with whatever project, and a lot of them are gifts for family members, and so that's always great to see. And of course, a highlight is always the science fair, where students are exploring different aspects of BOAG, and how it applies to their everyday life or in society. So they put a lot of time and effort and have an opportunity to demonstrate their experiments with their peers, their parents, and judges. They always do a really good job. So I want to thank you also for your continued support with having that program at the middle school, because it has been really beneficial to a lot of our students. So with that, Ms. Barger.
I want to pass some stuff around so that you guys can look around at things. These pins are for the Board of Education. My students had made them within this last week after they get done with their first project for woodworking. They end up kind of fiddling around with all the tools. I let them use scrap woods and they make things. Something I introduced last year was the lathe, because I was recently taught on it, and they ended up making those pins custom. So that's kind of, I introduced you guys to the school that way. All right, so yes, I teach 8th grade Ag STEM. I focus to structuring my classroom based on the 3-circle model that agriculture education revolves around. Those 3 circles are inquiry-based instruction and learning, and then supervised agriculture experience, and then we have premier leadership, personal growth, and career success. So throughout all of this, I aim for them to come to my classroom the way they are, and they grow as a person, not just academically. I want them to work with others well. I need them to be able to actually go into a career setting and be able to work as a unit, if that makes sense. So, my content standards, I have 9 of them, which is a lot to get through in a semester. But I end up integrating all of them together at the same time. So, my top priority is business operation in the 21st century and skills. So, this could go anywhere from job interviews to producing new items. I'll kind of show that later on, what they do too. Obviously, we talk about animal science. We talk about biotechnology, specifically when we do food labs and how to safely prepare those things. Power systems, elements of production, environmental science, food science, plant science, and energy. So we get through a lot in 18 weeks. We do about a project a week. All right. The philosophy and principles of a career tech classroom are that we incorporate a broad and long-term conception of work in combination with the depth of specialized skills. Meaning that I broaden their horizons with, let's say, woodworking, because I don't know right now. I've taught them basic skills within the lab so that when they go out into the field, they can have those specialized skills later on somewhere else. I emphasize the acquisition of strong academic knowledge and skill, so we're always striving that. I tell them that this is their job, school is work. So we are always striving for success, and then I start the process of facilitating the transition between secondary and post-secondary schools. So I am preparing my kids to continue on to high school when VHorn takes over, or the high school FFA or any of my colleagues, we'll transition them over to post-secondary. That could be at college, and that could be strictly workforce. So, there are several career fields that I personally touch on within my time with my students. They consist of agribusiness and production systems. So, sales representatives. I have my students develop their own fertilizer. They have to do all the math for it, and then at the end of that project, they have to come in and have a business meeting with me and try to sell it to me. Animal science and management, I specifically teach them how to inspect meat and what the difference between wholesale and resale cuts are. So we're looking at how marbling affects what prices are, so on and so forth. I do that with beef, pork, and poultry. Bioscience, I specifically look into culinary science with how we regulate food in productions, and then we go into how we prevent diseases throughout the process. Horticulture, we talk a lot about soil science. So how plants are affected by soil, the structure of soil, what that means for different areas, not only in Ohio, but throughout the United States, throughout the world, and what they actually produce and what we export and import. Natural resources and management, I kind of focus this on my career week. We talk about fisheries and forestry and wildlife management and what that actually looks like as a career. And then the last thing is power technology. So I would have said woodworking, but I actually implemented this one thing this year where my students have to be ready each day to earn employability points. So they have to have shoes, proper shoes on, proper clothes on, and actually ready to go. Now, if you've ever been in my room, it's quite small, so I have to split my group into two. So I've now instilled a foreman. I've watched how they do all year long, and there's somebody who sits at the front. I have managers below them, and they all kind of work together, and they keep on task, and it's been working out really well. So, yeah. For the future, right now, my immediate future, I'm looking at creating a virtual tour of the water tower. That has went away this last year because people have gotten busy. So I've researched and done a little bit of messing around with different apps, and I've figured out a way that I can actually tour the entire water tower, and then I'll probably end up putting that on our website, which leads me into this. Not only am I just the ag teacher, I am the FFA advisor for the middle school, and I'm co-FFA advisor over here at the high school. I've taken the liberty of developing a brand new website for Tecumseh FFA. It holds all of our news, all of our updates. It's been very useful recently. So we also have a podcast through that too. There have been some hiccups around that, but we're trying to work out the kinks. And it's ran by our seniors right now. So, to give you a little bit more information, because yes, FFA is part of my gig. FFA runs on a school-based agriculture education with the three-component model, as I stated earlier. Within the model, they focus on the balance of the classroom and laboratory instruction. FFA organization itself, so focusing on that developing premier leadership, personal growth, and career success. And supervised agriculture experience. So supervised agricultural experience, we call it SAE. This can be anything from our science fairs to job placements. It could be mowing your own grass during the summer. It really is anything, as long as you're being able to use the knowledge that you gained in class and those skills in class out via experiment. You're doing it yourself. Yeah. So, at TMS, our FFA program is a club. So, not everybody joins, but those who are in ag can join if they would like. If they do join, they have found like-minded people. They really have. And they grow as individuals. And that's not just saying within our school. They actually go out and go to FFA camps, and they meet other people, and they're forced to kind of mingle with other schools. Right? So it is very interesting. Our members compete in all sorts of competitions, ranging from job interviews to general livestock judging, from public speaking all the way to wildlife judging competitions. We are the largest student-run organization nationwide. We just hit 1 million members, and we truly are student-run. Tomorrow we have our FFA meeting, so all of our officers will meet tomorrow to talk about the next couple of months. So yeah, it's very interesting. That's my email, our website, and my phone number. If you have any questions, yeah, you can get in contact with me. I have 3 individuals who are willing to talk. Who would like to go first? Chassie?
Yeah.
That's Chassie Allen.
So I'm Chassie Allen. I'm a freshman at Tecumseh High School, obviously. I started FFA my 8th grade year. I was really, I want to say involved, but I was really just close with Ms. Barger, and she got me involved. She really pushed me to do a lot of things. The first competition I did was creed speaking, so the FFA creed, memorized it, spoke it. Second competition, I just really got into livestock judging. I got 15th in state for the middle school, and that's just something that I've really grown in for equine judging. And this year I've gone in more competitions. Over the summer I went to FFA camp. I've met so many people. I mean, the people that I've talked to from over the years, my range has just gotten wider because I met a girl that is more than likely going to be my best friend for the rest of my life. She lives 3 hours away, but we met because of FFA. And it is just, I think FFA is just great. And Ms. Barter's class, like, that's just what really got me a kickstart. And like, I want to go into agriculture and do something with that for the rest of my life because it's something that I really have a passion in and I really just enjoy it. And yeah.
Okay, Maddie Clevenger.
So, my name is Madeline Clevenger. I am in 10th grade, and I've been in the FFA for 2 years now. I take care of my own farm, a mini farm. We've got 2 goats and a horse and a few chickens. My most memorable moment in Miss Barger's class was the science fair. I got first place. I plan to continue my agricultural education for the next couple of years. My dream job is aerospace welding, and if I get it, I hope that I can be in the agricultural industry for the rest of my life.
And then Jackson Clevenger.
Hi, my name is Jackson Clevenger, and I'm currently an 8th grader in the first semester of Ms. Barger's class. In this year alone, I have attended farm science review and completed the job interview and Parlor Pro law contest. I am also the first of 2 8th graders honoring officers. I go to the high school offering meetings and relay the information to my middle school members. I am looking forward to competing in the middle school FFA quiz bowl and general livestock judging. I have found this class very interesting and different from other classes. We usually get to do a project a week or every like 3 weeks. Currently, I take care of 2 goats, 3 dogs, 3 chickens, and when I grow up, I want to be a welder. Which both relate to agriculture. I have learned that agriculture can mean also anything and is not just crops and animals. I am looking forward to the remaining year in my time in FFA at high school. Thank you.
Questions, board members? So you can keep one.
Oh, we can keep one.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
pick one.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I thought it was showing them.
Stealing.
Oh, yelling at her.
No, I was not worried about that. Don't mind us. Anybody have questions for?
I have several. I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Mills, for waiting.
You kind of answered one of them already, but I saw two items in what you offer, what you teach, and I just had some more questions on that.
Okay.
So what is power systems again?
So power systems, I focus on basically the industrial technology aspect of it.
Okay,
So I focus on beginner power tools, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that they can have a basic knowledge so that they can go forward, if that makes sense.
it does.
Yeah. If I have a student, say, with robotics in science fair, then I'll sit down individually, one-on-one, and we'll go through systems,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
It does, it does. So is it fair to say that during power systems, you might be teaching them about not only power tools, but simple machines and things of that nature? That's
Yes.
awesome, great to hear. And then what is energy?
Energy is basic electricity circuits. So teaching parallel and continuing circuits.
Ohm's law?
Yeah.
Is your course considered a CTE course?
Yes.
With an appropriate pathway?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great job.
That's all. Thank you for being here and spending the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys too.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you. I appreciate my pen. I have a deal for you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are to our first time for public comments at our meeting. Let me get to my little ditty. We have plenty of time on the agenda for public comment in 2 places as we move through this agenda. During this first public comment section, we open up items directly related to anything on the published meeting agenda. A few notes as contained in our board policy on public participation. If you want to reference that policy, it's 0169.1. We have 30 minutes set aside for public comments. If there's a need for further time, the presiding officer will pause the comments and entertain a motion for additional time as needed. I've asked Mrs. Robinson to be our timekeeper tonight for this purpose. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes per person unless extended by the presiding officer. During public comments, no single participant can speak on the same topic more than one time until all have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the board as a whole as we preside as one official body. The presiding officer can ask the superintendent and treasurer for any additional follow-up after the meeting as appropriate. Comments should be respectful at all times. Profanity, derisive language, and intimidation will not be tolerated, and the commenter may be asked to leave our meeting. Comments and questions related to a specific student situation, or legal matter will not be discussed in a public forum. If appropriate, an individual may be invited to executive session by the Board of Education. With that, we are ready for public comment related to, items on our agenda, and I do have a sign up and would ask Mrs. Strayer to get us started. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Carol Strayer. I live at 309 North Clay Street in Carlisle. Last month was a very contentious meeting. You, the school board, acted in a professional and neutral manner, even during the aggressive incident. I want you to know that I appreciate that attitude. As you move forward, I hope you vote to rescind the RTRI policy that I know it is up for suspension only tonight. After the state formulates its stance on RTRI, it is most likely that you will need to pick it up again. I hope that when you do, take the following into consideration. Students whose family choose not to participate should not be penalized with study hall instead of instructional time. Teachers should not be penalized with extra work when students miss all or part of a class. Teachers should not have to take in extra time for instruction for those specific students. Students who attend RTRI should be required to turn work in at the same time as all other students. Support staff such as secretaries, lunchroom staff, principals should not have extra duties as related to RTRI. On a personal level, I personally do not like having people from outside my district coming in and telling us what we should do, and that truly irritates me. At the last board meeting, you had people who do not live in our district or who homeschool their children. Should they have a say about our policies? I have heard from a friend who is a librarian in Ravenna, Ohio. They have LifeWise. She found out recently that of the 200 signatures of people signing their petition to bring it into their school district, 78 of them were not from their district, and several were from out of state. I hope that our district checks that out when looking at that for our district. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Frey. We also have Liz Lawrence listed for comments.
Can I go after? Sorry, it's not about, what I have to say is not about the board agenda tonight. I apologize.
Just general public comment? Perfect, we'll see you at the end. Wonderful. Anybody else public comment related specifically to agenda items? I hear none. Let's go ahead and get moving. Board members, we're going to go ahead and move into adoption of our consent calendar for personnel. This is items A through F with the addendum of items R and S. Board members, may I have a motion and a second, please, for these items? Mr. Diller?
Second.
And Mr. Mills, thank you. Mrs. Crew, anything in these items that you want to call our attention to, please?
It's all standard. I would like to call your attention to the addendum, item R. As item R and S will fall under item F. On R, I'm asking the board to approve the public meeting on the issue of rehire for Shelly Randall, PE teacher at the middle school. She's requested to rehire. So just to refresh your memory on that process, she's with us tonight too. So refresh your memory on that process. First, you have to approve for us to advertise it, and then next comes a hearing where people have an option to talk about the rehire of the individual, and finally the vote. And then following that vote, you'll approve her rehire.
Earlier, I had whispered in your ear and asked you, so I'm going to ask in public now too. But we don't have a date for Mrs. Randall retiring yet. So we are just going through the motion at the beginning. So when we get that date, then it can come back on the board agenda. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, we have the date, but it's not on the agenda yet. I mean, through
Got
this
it.
process.
Got it. Okay.
We know the date.
Okay. Board members, any other questions on any of these items?
I have one question, just a clarification for the wrestling assistant varsity coach. Is that the middle school coach or the high school coach?
Item F.
Item F, wrestling.
I would have to double
It's
check.
under high school.
I think it's middle
It's
school.
varsity.
I think it's middle school because I know the gentleman who's applied.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure the agenda showed was accurate.
Let me put a middle school in question mark, and then you can clear that up.
Thank you.
Board members, any other questions on those items? All right, Mrs. Robinson?
Mr. Diller?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to consent calendar administrative. This is items G and H. Board members, we need a motion and a second for these items. Please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mills and Mr. Stafford. Thank you. All right, who wants to do this? Mrs. Greer, are you up?
To be elected president.
Yep.
I think that's actually usually Denise that does that.
I thought, yeah, okay.
So OSBA advises that the board elects a president pro tem for the January organizational meeting, and they serve as president pro tem and lead the meeting until the board elects a president at that meeting. So we need a nomination for the president pro tem for the January 7th meeting. Anyone can nominate anyone.
I nominate her.
Brenda Clark nominates Sue Ann Martin. Do I have a second of that motion?
Second.
Matt Miller, Roger Diller,
Sorry,
John
John.
Stafford. I'll put Matt Mills on that. Are there any other nominations?
I read a read.
I'm gonna take none. So that means Sue Ann Martin will be the president pro tem at the organizational meeting. Congratulations, Sue Ann. And Paula, you can take the next one.
Age, power, and pin competition coming up in May. Just need the board to pass the $250 stipend. Thank you.
And now last year we had 3, if I remember correctly. We did add a third. We don't need that to start.
To the best of my knowledge, no.
That's correct.
Right, Lord?
Thank you. All right, board members, questions on these 2 items? All right, Mrs. Robinson?
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford?
Yes.
Mr. Diller?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes. Moving on, board members, moving into consent calendar for financial items. This is items I through N. I need a motion and a second, please.
I'll move. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford and Mr. Mills. Mrs. Robinson, over to you.
That's pretty short.
Got it. Thick, but it's short, she says.
Thick, but it's short. The first item on here is just regards to our fiscal year 24 GAAP report. It was filed on time with the Auditor of State's office. It must be completed and filed before the auditors can actually complete the financial audit. They're currently working on it, and we also properly advertised in the Springfield News Sun that we have the availability of our unaudited financial statements. That's required by law to be published in a local newspaper, and we did that. Second thing I wanted to talk about is we have OASBO sponsors what they call a PNC procurement card. It's a credit card, and we have that here at the district. And we receive rebates once a year by using that card versus using any other type of credit card. And so I just put on here what we've earned over the past couple years, $555 in '23, $945 in fiscal year '24, and so far this year, $1,805. So it depends on how much we use it, how much of a rebate we
What
get.
have we done this year differently?
So we're finding where we can use it more securely, we're using it more.
Perfect.
But we have to make
Thank
sure
you.
that it's secure to be able to use. And then attached, you will find the STRS pension audit and SERS pension audit. I had mentioned that we had these audits a month or so ago. In the STRS audit, there were no issues found, and that's the very first one attached. And then the second one is where, that was the SERS pension audit. And if you turn to the third page, that's actually page 3 at the bottom, they found a significant deficiency. And it says in here that the district's payroll system and employee documentation reflected the correct information, but the information provided by SERS did not. So we had the correct information, SERS did not, and I have an email from SERS stating that it was their fault, but we still get cited because we didn't tell STRS, or we didn't make them change their records. And it was one birth date is all the information was. It was one staff member's birthday that was wrong. So, and of course, I was able to respond to that, so my response is in there in regards to that significant deficiency. But again, our records were correct, and it says so in the audit report. And that's all I had.
Was that how often does this audit happen, please?
Every 10 years.
Okay, okay, so it wasn't something new and oh my God, okay, it's been that way for a bit.
Yes. Yes, it actually, and that person's birth date has been wrong for way more than 10 years. That person, yes, it's been forever. That person was actually listed as a beneficiary on someone's life insurance. So it was put in the system incorrectly many, many, many years ago, before they were ever employed in our district. So it happened way before that person was ever even employed here. And we had to do a lot of digging, and SCRS found that out. So it had nothing to do with us at all, but we get cited for it anyway.
Did that person have to do something to correct it? They just.
I had to send the information that we had showing the correct date on their driver's license, birth certificate. And so, and it says in there that SRS changed their data in September of 2024 based on the information we gave them. So.
All right.
Questions on any of that, board members? I hear none. Mrs. Robinson, what else you got for us?
The grant funds, negative balances for every month. There were a few changes in appropriations. You have that document as well. Donations, we just had one on there. Paul, I don't know if you need to say anything about that.
Tecumseh High School.
Membership in OSBA, the board is a member of OSBA. Unfortunately, we don't have the documentation to show what that cost will be yet, but it's always due at the very beginning of January. And so I put on here what the cost is or was for last year, and it's usually within a couple $100 of the year before.
It hasn't been raising significant.
No, correct. So we're just asking that you approve us belonging to that, even though we don't have the exact price. And then there's just a few unpaid leave requests. That's it.
Board members, questions on those other items for Mrs. Robinson? I hear none. Mrs. Robinson with the roll, please.
Mr. Stafford?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Diller?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to instructional. Item O, please. Board members, I need a motion and a second for this item for discussion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mills and Mr. Diller. And Mrs. Kerr, if I remember correctly, we've been doing this for quite some time. But we have to pass it every year.
That's correct.
Okay. Anything you want to tell us or add, or?
I think that, and Beth, jump in if you like, but I think data has shown that our third graders taking it paper and pencil is more advantageous than taking it with a Chromebook.
It's true, our third grade teachers prefer it. It's developmentally appropriate. In other districts that went from paper to electronic are starting to revert back because.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, questions on this item? And our third graders have? I hear none. Mrs. Robinson?
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Diller?
Yes.
Ms. Clark? Mr. Stafford?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes. Wonderful. Moving down to policy, please. Board members, we have the policy for release time, and we have a policy review list. Excuse me. And so I need a motion and a second to move into these items, please.
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. And Mrs. Robinson, I'll make the second on this one. Mrs. Kerr.
And so the board is asked on item P to suspend policy 5223, release time for religious instruction, and place it on the January 7th, 2025 agenda for further review.
Wonderful. We do need to make a vote on this one specifically, and this is based on our conversations at our last meeting suspending this. hopefully our state legislature will have something for us. If not, back to us. Conversation, any more conversation regarding that item specifically? I hear none. Mrs. Robinson?
Mr. Stafford,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Mills,
Yes.
Mr. Dillard,
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Wonderful. And then Mrs. Crew, anything about the list of policy for review that you have?
Other than it's long, there's quite a few policies this time. Reach out as you're looking through that. If you have any questions uploaded in your doc is all the changes to those policies. I have a hard copy if you'd like to see those.
Okay.
And I very soon will be sharing that changes to board policy document.
Yes.
You guys have access.
They do. Okay. Wonderful. Anything else on those policies? Board members?
Just one thing, and it would be nice in that document, Mrs. Crew, we could have is which ones are brand new policies. We could
There
have
is a
that
column that
identified.
says revised or new policy
Okay.
already, so I'll make sure to include that in all of them.
Thank you very much. Those ones probably deserve slightly more scrutiny. Thank you.
Wonderful. Moving into planning and discussion. Mrs. Crew, I'll turn this over to you. And reports.
No planning and discussion at this time. We do have reports though. Can we start with Ms. Moore?
Okay, state testing, so third grade did do their state testing in the fall, we expect results on December 16th. December 16th is another great day for Tecumseh High School. They will finish their end of course courses for kids that needed to get those credits through state testing. Additionally, the high school does their ACT testing typically in the spring, early mid-March. They have decided to not just do ACT, but they are doing work keys attached to ACT, but it's like a workforce aptitude test where students can elect to do that, not the ACT, and can earn certificates that they can take to jobs. So that's pretty interesting. We'll get more details with that. Addition, they can do the military aptitude test as well. Been working with Suzanne Massey on this. She's a guidance counselor at the high school, and she's just got a really good feel for this. And instead of everybody being the ACT, it's neat to see the high school say there are other avenues. So I thought that was interesting, and we'll let you know how that goes as well. In regards to curriculum, as you know, with ESSER funds, we purchased quite a bit of new curriculum in the elementary, the middle, and some of the high school. We'd like to do a survey and check in to see how is pacing going, where are the pitfalls, where do people need support to do a mid-year check. So we'll do that, and then we'll go back to our team and say, okay, how do we support better? How do we adjust? So that'll be coming up after the break as well. Working with Deanna Garrett on a grant with the middle school for ELA materials. They did not receive new materials through ESSER, and so we're looking at other grant opportunities to work on that. What's neat is teachers came to us and said, we would really like to explore some new curriculum. We understand that it is great for students, it organizes us, and so it's really a neat perspective to have teachers come to us and ask us. So working on that with Mrs. Garrett and Ms. McFarland as well. And then young authors, it's that time we start to collect young authors' writing pieces to send them off to Wittenberg in the early spring. So those are just a few things. I would also like to say that I enjoyed seeing the two of you at the senior citizen luncheon as well. It was kind of fun. So thank you for attending.
What's she trying to say?
It was nice. It was like a friendly, sweet environment. Yes. Yeah. Dang, I blew it, didn't I?
Yeah. Totally there representing.
Susan, what do you have?
I wanted to say, just kind of echo Lauren's comments about Brooklyn's BOAG program and how she works to involve the students. Like, my daughter really got involved in the FFA with Brooke in the 8th grade and very much enjoyed that program, continued it into high school. So I just wanted to say that all that she said was true from a parent's perspective. She really does a great job with the kids and gets them involved, and they really enjoy that class. So that was just my 2 bits on that. Our special ed district profile report,
is due out this time of year, but they delayed that release, I think because they're tweaking some of the metrics, of course, you know, they gotta change how they're measuring us before they, they have to figure out, let us do the job first and then figure out what we're getting judged by, but they did release these new model policies and procedures yesterday, and we have to decide whether, as a district, we're going to adopt their model policies and procedures, or whether we will enhance them and create our own, that's the word they used, enhance, and create our own policy and procedures, so we need to review those by March and submit them into the state. So I will be looking over those, and I'll bring those to you guys to decide about what we want to do with our special ed policies and procedures. And that is coming due because they have new operating standards, which were implemented in June, and they will now want us to do a yearly revision of our policies and procedures and upload those each year. So that's a new requirement for us. For ELL, we are getting ready to start that OELPA assessment, which goes from February 3rd to March 28th. So we'll be meeting on Friday, kind of review our goals for that and look at what our plan for getting all of those tests given and pulling all the subgroups that have to take that and making sure they get all of the different pieces of that. We have about 220 kids throughout the district that have to take that assessment. So, and then in gifted, I just want to go back to, I know it's been a while since we talked about the state report card, but I haven't addressed yet that we received 0 out of 5 points in our gap closing for gifted in 2 of 3 areas. And first I want to say that those points are all or nothing. So either you meet the criteria and you get all 5 points, or you don't meet the criteria and you get 0 points. There's no partial points awarded, but we're doing a lot of really good things in gifted, and I don't feel that the score on the report card reflects that accurately. At 83.4% of our students who are identified as gifted are performing at either the accelerated or advanced level on state assessments. And when you go back and you think, okay, well, how many of them are getting at least proficient? We've got 94.7%. So a great deal of our students who are identified as gifted are putting in the work, and they're getting great scores on those state assessments. We met our gifted index, we met 95.7% of that goal. So we're less than 5% away from reaching that goal, and again, that equated to 0 points. And yeah, so really, really close on that one. And we should be proud of the fact of the work that we've done in this district to service our gifted students. In the last several years, our general education teachers have really taken on the task of, they have to participate in 60 hours of professional development in order to be labeled as gifted service providers. And so many of our teachers have done that, that we are able to provide services to 64.3% of our students who are gifted in different areas. And that is more than any other district in Clark County. You can go in the report card and you can click and you can look, because some districts did score better than us on that gap closing metric, but they're not providing services to that percentage of their students. It's just that the metric is weighted to award more points to different grade bands or different service areas that districts have a tendency to not service, like visual and performing arts. And so our team, our DLT, is looking at ways that we can capture more credit for the work that we're doing in gifted, but I just think it's important to highlight that we are doing good things for our gifted kids. Our gifted kids are thriving here at Tecumseh Local. We've put in a lot of work to make that happen, and I just felt like we should highlight that this metric doesn't make it look like that, but our gifted kids are doing well here at Tecumseh. And I'm proud of the work that our general education teachers have put in to be able to be those service providers and get those great state test scores for those kiddos. So I just wanted to point that out.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, we get a lot of gifted funding that is restricted funding. However, you cannot use any funding for those regular ed teachers who do all the work for the gifted students. You cannot use any of those expenditures towards the restricted gifted funds. Correct, Susan?
It's correct.
So the work they're doing
Not shocked.
does not equate to what we could use that money for.
And there are some other things that it would be nice if we could spend on, that we're not allowed to spend those gifted funds on it. Yeah, so that's another soapbox. But that's all I have.
Wonderful. Brian?
Yes, I've got a few things. First off, thank you for your patience last meeting when I wasn't here, but just to recap on that 8th grade Washington DC trip, outstanding experience. You know, it's awesome to get to see these kids out of different environments other than just the classroom. There's a lot of education that goes on that trip. For me, I really enjoy taking our kids to see Wesley Williams' gravesite. I think it's just awesome for somebody that gave all for freedom in this country. We had an opportunity to visit the Army Museum, which was outstanding. Kind of changed the trip up a little bit this year. It was a little rocky getting back here because we got into some snow in West Virginia mountains, but all was good and overall good experience. I think my favorite part of the trip though this year was we arrived in St. Clairsville, ended the trip, everybody's tired. We get off the bus and we go to different restaurants, so each chaperone goes to a different restaurant, so kids have choices. I took about 42 kids to Arby's. And so when I walk in and you got all these hungry kids, they've been on the bus all day. And as soon as we get in line, here comes this little family in, 2 little kids, 2 adults, and our kids step to the side and let these people go to the front. So just, that's something you don't teach those kids, but that's obviously been done in the right places. So great trip. Just to touch a little bit on safety, Tecumseh Local Schools is going to be recognized on Thursday by the Ohio Department of Public Safety, Ohio School Safety Center. In an upcoming video, it's going to feature Deputy Loney and Deputy Dillon for the work that they did in response to the September 16th incident threat that we had here in the school. So we're anxious to capture that, be a part of that, get some recognition, let people know that we're keeping kids here safe in the district. Public water, this is something that I think is going to be something that we have some discussions about in the future, but I'm on Rotary with Alex Dietz, who is the Clark County Director of Development. He relayed to me a message about 2 weeks ago that water is going to connect the village of Donaldsville and 235. This would mean public water would be available to connect to main campus and to Donaldsville Elementary. Again, not saying we should do that or not do that, but that's certainly a topic of discussion in the future because this would have a lasting impact on the district. Please know there's positives and negatives with this that could impact the district financially, so please just stay tuned on this one as we get some more information on that. The next thing, chillers, we continue to be good stewards here in the community with exploring possible replacements of our aging chiller systems in the district. Like we did with boilers in the past, they're kind of nearing that end of life expectancy. And although we're not there yet, we need to start to allocate expenses in those directions with our capital outlay. Tecumseh High School and Tecumseh Middle School each have 2 chillers. Rough estimate, those are probably about $300,000 a piece. Each elementary building has a chiller in it. Costs around $250,000 a piece. So we regularly maintain these, so none of them are in a place where they're not in working order. And if you think back, we've got preventive maintenance on those. But if you'll recall in the past, we focused on boilers because they provide heat. Living without air conditioning would certainly be uncomfortable, so that's why we're kind of trying to be forward-thinking as we move into these next steps. Was going to talk a little bit about the critical response graphs that some of the other districts in Clark County are looking into. In fact, I'll share this with you. Please know we're still investigating this because not all of our questions have been fully answered with this. There's still some questions on the access that the Clark County Sheriff's Department has with this. But this system is basically a grid system that they would take existing maps of our buildings, of our campuses, an overlay on top of our current maps. And it's kind of like a grid system. So it would basically simplify things in an emergency response with columns and rows. I attended a virtual presentation with a lot of other assistant superintendents in the districts. Many Clark County schools are exploring the same software. If we would move forward with this, we'd probably move forward at the high school and the middle school level. But what is in question is how the Clark County Sheriff's Office received this. Talking with Mr. Mills a little bit, there is some questions on whether the Clark County Sheriff's Department has to pay for this as well. So we want to make sure everybody's on board with this before we jump through this. So again, this is another one just to kind of stay tuned with, but there's some information there for you guys to look over. Last thing, I just want to give kudos to Deputy Loney, Deputy Dillon, and our SAD officers here at Tecumseh High School. Deputy Loney, Deputy Dillon, and the SAD officers recently did a Buckle Up with Brutus campaign at Donaldsville and New Carlisle with our second and third graders. The Ohio Department of Transportation awarded $20 per student that completed this class. So overall, the district's going to receive a little bit over $7,000, which is exciting. Full disclaimer. There were a couple questions about the state up north. I'd be amiss if I didn't tell you that they don't have the same program. But our kids did come up with some good themes. Deputy Loney and I might have helped them a little bit.
Absolutely.
But Wolverines can't drive, but they still buckle up.
That's a true statement.
Be smarter than a Wolverine. Use your seatbelt. Questions for me?
Yes. On the water issue, if we did move that direction, would we have to, I know that we do the sewer through Donaldsville. Would Donaldsville be in charge of our water supply then if it goes through Donaldsville?
That would definitely be a question we have to find out information on.
And then, would our wells be able to be kept in place with a fire suppression?
That's another question.
Okay.
A lot of questions on that. What we do with our plants, the plants at Park Lane and New Carlisle are plumbed for fire suppression. The one at Donaldsville is not. A lot of questions about this tower out here.
Yeah.
How, it's not just simply we hook it to the front of the building and move on. There have to be some investment in that. I've asked questions to Clark County Utilities as whether they would use that as a pressure holding tank, because they're going to need some pressure tank somewhere. So there's still a ton of questions out there about that. I asked if there would be any assistance given, because a lot of this is it's funded through a state initiative through a grant or so. I asked if any of those funds would come to the district for us to be able to do some things like that. So I'm definitely planning seeds on that and trying to work through that to see, what kind of investment would require.
So is the county supplying the water to the village of Donaldsville?
That's my understanding.
So if it comes from
235.
235 and it comes across here, or are they asking us if we would tap into it for the high school too?
They haven't asked that yet, but I think, again.
It could come.
How far down the road is this? A
Um,
couple years?
I would say probably a couple years.
Okay.
But as these discussions begin.
Right.
We want to make sure we're a part of them so that we've got an
Absolutely.
invested interest in them.
And Brian, I think that there's a sense of urgency, if I'm correct, because of the issues in Donaldsville, is that right? With the water?
I will clarify that and say, not at Donaldsville Elementary.
City of Donaldsville?
The EPA continues to investigate, I think, closer to this, I think closer to the Donaldsville Mall, to be honest with you. They've done a lot of.
Along the creek
there with that. That's kind of the area. But we have, they've drilled wells on our property, test wells.
Right.
With those kind of things. But again, we report every month to the Ohio EPA. This is actually the US EPA that's been involved in some of those things.
Oh.
Other questions?
Brad, just a comment, and I know you'll do your due diligence when it comes time to replace the chillers, but from my experience, chillers that are 20 years old are much smaller than today's chillers. So that's something you'll have to deal with when the time comes.
Yes.
So have fun with that.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
I know.
Deputy Wade.
Not at this time. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and stay safe.
I'm just passing out the e-newsletter. This is going to be published tomorrow. It just gives information from, did I read
Yeah,
the
newsletter in paper form.
Isn't that fun? How ironic.
It is ironic.
But I wanted to make it as part of my report, so each of our principals, supervisors, and directors, Denise, we all write an article, and this goes out 4 times a year. It's just very informational for our both internal and external stakeholders, so just FYI, I'll talk a little bit about mine since I wrote that one on the absenteeism and chronic absenteeism, and I think I brought this up before, but similar to what Susan was talking about with the gifted and the 0 out of 5 stars points. Last year, we did have 0 out of 5 for our chronic absenteeism, but a lot of work has been done by our principals, our teachers, our staff, our students, collectively that raised our percentage up, actually reduced our percentage of chronic absenteeism. I'm really proud to report that we did get 5 out of 5 points this year, so on alleviating chronic absenteeism, and I know our principals are all still diligently working along with staff and teachers on systems to continue to put in place, keeping the same ones that they know are working, but adding additional systems to improve our attendance, and it's working. I also wanted to share about the senior citizen luncheon. Thank you, as Beth indicated, Roger and Brenda, for coming to that. We had about 220 senior citizens from our community there. Ann Carter and her staff and child nutrition did a fabulous job planning for that, preparing the meals. The high school staff was wonderful with the flexibility of not having their gymnasium and having that many people in there. Our safety team did a wonderful job preparing for that many people. Our Aero Service Club delivered the food to the actual senior citizens. Our administrative team and staff came and helped distribute door prizes. People were very generous with donating door prizes, so a really good event for our community. This morning we did have the Wes Williams ceremony to remember Wes. Brian talked about seeing him in Washington, D.C. at Arlington each year. I also like the ceremony that we have here. It's not very long in length, but his wife and girls were here this morning along with his father and other family and friends, and our Air Force ROTC cadets do a nice job of lowering the flag to half-mast or half-staff, and it's still that way today if you're wondering why it's like that. Because he did sacrifice his life 12 years ago today. So he's a 2005 graduate of Tecumseh High School, 4-year member of the ROTC program, and taps kids me every time with his family watching. So a nice remembrance of Wes this morning. And we have our music programs going on in the district. Our music teachers and directors are doing a fabulous job, as are our kids, and a thank you to our teachers who come and help watch our students and keep them all, and our staff members who keep them all where they're supposed to be until it's time to sing and take them to where they're supposed to go afterwards. And that is all I have.
Board members, what kind of questions do you have for any of our administrators? Line them up. I hear none. All right, moving on. We do have our information item dates, as Mrs. Crew listed. There's all the good concerts in there. Come hang out, check them out. Mrs. Crew, Mrs. Robinson, I did want to draw our attention to the January 7th board meetings. I believe we had previously agreed to start the budget hearing at 5:30. the organizational meeting at 5:45 and then go directly into the regular meeting. If we can adjust that, please.
Say it again, please.
I'm sorry?
Say that time again.
5:30 to start on the 7th. And I cannot believe it's almost the end of this, end of the year. All right. Let's go into comments and questions from our board members. Mr. Mills, I'm starting with you.
Oh my goodness, that's.
I know, I'm mixing it up.
Well, first off, I'd like to say I got the chance to see the fourth graders at New Carlisle Elementary School yesterday do their Christmas program, and that was rather enjoyable. Everybody did a good job with that, all staff involved. I'm sure everyone else's Christmas programs were just as well and just as good, and all the hard work put in by all the other students is going to pay off. I really enjoyed our presentation for the BOAG program at the middle school today. I learned a lot about that I didn't realize was in it. That makes me excited. I know that it meets the CTE requirement. I would really love to see that offered to the 7th graders somehow, so we don't have to pass that resolution every May to where we don't provide it to them. So just leave that there. And then for CTC, because I have to talk about it real quick, things are starting to move. They're going to meet with OFCC, who is the governing body with the state of Ohio for building new buildings. That is tomorrow. I had the opportunity to attend that meeting. They are selling bonds. The board approved to sell the bonds because we have to have the money before you do anything. And so more to come on that, but things are moving forward. And also, and with this, I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays if you don't celebrate either. So.
Mr. Diller, what do you have for us? Some good questions about the water.
First year attending the senior citizens luncheon.
Yeah.
And,
Not because it's your first year.
yeah.
Mrs. Clark.
I'm still working. But, you don't realize how much goes into that until you walk into that room and look around and see what everybody's doing.
Wonderful.
Just everything. It was, I'll be back. Yeah, I'll bring my whole class the next time.
Okay, I think there's a cap on the number of people this crew put in there together. Anything else?
No.
Mrs. Clark, what do you have for us?
I want to say how proud I am of Brooke Larcher. That girl came in, wet behind the ears when I was still working, and she has grown leaps and bounds. I'm looking at Lauren, and it's amazing how far she's come and how much she's grown the program. It's really, really good to see. I'm so excited for her. What else? Seniors luncheon was awesome. It was great to see the people, but it's more, for me, it's about seeing the people see each other. Oh my gosh, these people, they're teachers from when I was a child. I mean, well, that's a long time, but you know, I mean, there were teachers there that are still here, then they love that. This is like their reunion, and they would not miss it for the world. And so that is what I just love about it. I'm so excited that we do that for our people in our district. I've been to 3 of the concerts so far, Donaldsonville TMS choirs and the New Carlisle 4th grade, Donaldsonville 2nd grade. It's so cute, I love it. I enjoy it, but I took my granddaughter to the 2nd grade one, she's 4. She was like mesmerized. And she had her preschool program on Sunday. And so we talked about how you stand up and you sing it out and you do all the motions. And not because she's mine, but I must say she was a star at her program because she had a little taste of what it was going to be like. So it was fun. It's been really fun season. And there's several more to go too, so I'm excited. Yep.
Mr. Stafford?
I don't have any.
All right.
Kitten Ridge last second shot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry,
that's
what?
good. Yeah.
Because
That was
it's
exciting.
Oh, Donaldsonville's second Christmas program's tomorrow night.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you have to.
I have a couple things. I want to recognize that we continue to support Wesley Williams' family by recognizing him. So thank you for continuing to do that. That is a lovely gift that we continue to do, and I'm thankful. I have heard great things about senior citizens luncheon, so I'm glad everybody gets to come and have a good time. So how much fun. I also am excited to hear about FFA and getting younger people involved in that. I will always be a champion of it. We were never FFA kids growing up, the three of us, but my beautiful niece, Delaney Martin, found a passion and love for it with her horses, had a steer, had some rabbits, had some chickens. You're with me. But the horses is what stuck, and runs her own business now and doing fantastic at it. I am very proud of her, and part of that was because of the joy she found in FFA at Tecumseh. I have the sad news of letting everyone here know that the Optimist Club in New Carlisle will be disbanding at the end of December. It's kind of run its course. I know, it's sad, Brenda. It has been in place for a lot of more years than I should. It started this September. I went to college as a freshman. My mom was a founding member. But it has run its course, and like so many other organizations in our communities, our churches, people are just very busy and have a hard time making everything work. So sadly, we are ending on the 31st of this month. So finally, I too want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I also want to make sure we recognize that there are 23 different holidays celebrated between Thanksgiving and the first of the year, and so just recognizing that everybody celebrates differently. I have the pleasure of taking my staff to breakfast tomorrow morning, and I have he calls himself a sort of Catholic. I'm Methodist, a sort of Catholic, a Hindu, and a Muslim. And we are going to go celebrate the holidays together at breakfast. So just as a reminder, as you go out into the world, that that's my soapbox today, Susan, is that not everybody has to believe like we do. So, and with that, I will move into our second public comments. We have time for additional public comments. These are comments not specifically related to agenda items. Same ideas apply based on time, total time, speaking to the board as a whole, not individuals. Can't talk about students, gotta be nice. And we're ready. And our first guest speaker is a blast from the past. And we are happy to see it. Hi, Ms. Freeze.
I am here to echo Lauren and Brian's thank you for the Washington, D.C. trip. Proud grandma moment. My granddaughter was one of the kids who got to place the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers. And when she told me that that was a possibility last summer, she said to me, you know, Grand, they pick 4 kids who get to do this, and she was talking about it, and she said, and if my pops was here, he'd be there. So I said to my daughter, if she's selected, her grand will be there. So we left after school on Wednesday, got to DC Wednesday evening, and we met them at Arlington National Cemetery and got to see my granddaughter place the wreath. So thank you all. Please, please, please continue it. That was the highlight. I retired this year, but that was the highlight of my year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Priest. Hey, tell me something good.
I'm retired.
Liz, I have you down. Did you want to speak?
So hi, my name is Liz Lawrence. Sorry, I'm talking before I get here.
That's all right.
I'm a little nervous because I've never really addressed the board before, so you have to forgive my nervousness. I've been working in this district with kids and families for 29 years. I currently work with my first grade littles,
at Park Lane Elementary, and I am standing here today to ask you to protect our students and staff by not arming members of our staff with guns. I have many concerns about this proposal, and I'd like to talk to you about a few of them. One concern is about the amount of training that is required by Ohio's lawmakers. 700 initial hours are required for law enforcement officials to do their job. Ohio lawmakers have slashed that to 24 hours. 24 hours of training is all that you need to use and be responsible for a weapon in a school full of children. 15 hours of tactical training and 4 scenario-based hours in Ohio's new mobile units. Less than 60 minutes of that training is dedicated to de-escalation and mitigation techniques. The article that I read said that law enforcement successfully, like actual officers, successfully hit intended targets 18% of incidents. That's it, 18%. That 18% is from a person who has way more training than a person that has 24 hours of training. A person that would be able to carry and use a gun at school. While there's little research on the effectiveness of arming school teachers, administrators, and staff members, there is no research on how that policy affects our school climates, our child development, and learning outcomes in each of our buildings. How will our parents feel and our community members feel about this? How do our teachers feel? What about our students? Our youngest learners might not know how to might not know how to say how they feel about it, but our middle school students, our high school students, they definitely have an opinion, I'm sure. Has anybody asked the stakeholders about how they feel about having this in your community schools? I'd like to talk about the financial costs of this for our district. The district would need to pay for guns, for ammunition, biometric gun safes, bulletproof vests for each staff member. Yearly background checks would also be needed for staff. Certification costs from the state would also need to be paid. Mental health screenings would need to be certified and maintained for armed staff, according to the information that I read online. Liability insurance is another costly requirement for this policy at Tecumseh. Would armed staff members need to purchase liability insurance as well? It seems like much of this money would be so much better spent reducing class sizes, hiring staff to meet the academic, social, and emotional needs of our students. Mostly it's the what-ifs that concern me most deeply. It's the what-ifs for students, for administration, and for staff in my school, in this district, in this community. What if I was to have this gun and I misidentify the shooter and I kill an innocent bystander? What if I accidentally shoot my coworker? What if I accidentally shoot an innocent student? What if a student somehow gets access to my gun? What if that student hurts himself or kills someone in my class? What if? Your staff sat in the auditorium on the first days of school this year. We listened to active threat training on August 15th from Ohio School Safety Center. The man told your staff that they would not remember how to tie their shoes in a school shooting event. They would not remember that they were supposed to lock and shut their door. He said your brain, he called it your squirrel brain, would make plausible excuses for the sounds and smells and sights in a traumatic event like a school shooting. If you can't remember to lock and close the door, how could you expect someone with little training, 24 hours of training, to get out their gun and shoot someone? Is this what you want at your work, at your wife's work, at your child's work? If you approve this policy in January, you are asking a person to do an impossible job with little training. You are asking people who care and who have cared for your children, your grandchildren, to risk their lives and the lives of others that they work with every day. You are asking a person to possibly shoot a previous student, a student's parent, a staff member that they have worked with for years. Is that person going to be able to do it? Would you? Please do the work. Please do the work before you vote on this really important policy. Please talk to your staff, talk to your community members,
talk to your students and learn about their opinions and their concerns as well, please. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't follow that. I mean, I had planned on coming up, but Carol spoke to what I was gonna say about the policy, and Liz was very eloquent.
Anybody else? Open forum? You got 5 minutes? Be nice. All right, I hear none. We do have a need for executive session. The board will be moving to executive session for the following reasons: to consider the compensation of public employee or official, and to discuss details relative to the security arrangements and emergency response protocols for the Board of Education. At this time, board members, I'll take a motion and a second for executive session. Mr. Diller and Mrs. Clark. Mrs. Robinson, when you're ready.
Mr. Dillon? Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes, thank you.
7:21.
Thank you, 7:21. We will reconvene. Do you need a 5-minute break, anybody? I need a 5-minute break. How about 7:30? Be back here at 7:30. Wait, I need to go.
Joanne,
Yes,
will there
please?
be action afterwards?
Will there be action afterwards? No. Thank you.
Carrie asked.
Yes, she did, and thank you. Thanks for covering for me.
If you need this hat next year, let me know. If you need to add this to the wardrobe, let me know.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, you'll see in the morning.
What's that? Okay.